Is Vladimir Putin about to win the war in Ukraine? Well, that depends. What is his objective? Is it really about conquering territory? I believe it's not. I've said from the beginning, I think his true objective is to destroy the dollar-denominated Western financial system. And if that is his objective, I believe he may be on the verge of winning the war right now. Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to explain what is Vladimir Putin's true objective here? Was this really just a proxy war focused on the Western financial system? And we're going to turn to this tweet right here to help visualize what this means. What is the Achilles heel of the Western financial system? I believe that it is the fiat currency system we operate under. Fiat currency is basically currency that derives its value simply because the government says that it has value, when really it's just pieces of paper or ones and zeros on a computer that can be conjured up and printed at will. It doesn't have real value that real things have, such as gold and silver. Traditionally, historically, for thousands of years, gold and silver have been real money. And so under the fiat system we've operated under in the United States since President Nixon closed the gold window back in 1971, we've been operating under this fiat system, and gold has not been backing US dollars. It hasn't been backing any current major currency in the world. And so what would happen if that was exposed and people realized that the currency they think has value doesn't have value? Well, if that happened, it would destroy the Western financial system. So what we're looking at right here is, this is COMEX weekly physical gold deliveries breaking above the 30-year range ceiling. So what does that mean? Well, the COMEX stands for Commodities Exchange. It's a division of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. This is where futures are traded. So this would be paper contracts for gold. So you may say, well, I want gold a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now. You buy a contract that says that that would be delivered. But what's happened over time is people have been buying those contracts for financial speculation on the price of gold, but not actually asking for delivery of the physical gold. And so that has enabled the big banks to manipulate the price of gold and artificially suppress the price of gold relative to the dollar and other Western fiat currencies for the last 50 years to a degree. But now we are seeing that something is starting to change. Deliveries are being taken. And why does that matter? Well, why that matters is right here. Paper to physical ratio is over 100 to 1. So nobody really knows what that ratio is. I've heard speculation of 50 to 1 all the way up to 500 to 1. Nobody really knows for sure, but what we do know is that there are far more paper contracts claiming ownership of gold than there is gold. And so what that means is we have a game of musical chairs where everybody's walking around. They all think that they own gold because they own these pieces of paper, these contracts, these claims on gold, but they don't really own gold. So once the physical delivery starts being taken and people go to claim their gold, all of a sudden, just like a bank run, they're going to find out they don't really have my gold. And then everybody is going to want their gold at the same time. And this market is going to break, and then we will see the true price of physical gold, which will expose the Western fiat financial system for the fraud that it is, as people realize, wow, it's not the price of gold going up, it's not the price of gasoline and groceries going up, but it's the currency falling in value. And once people lose faith in that currency, it will destroy that currency. This is throughout history. Fiat currencies, every fiat currency in the history of the world has eventually gone to the value of zero. And so I believe that Putin, when he invaded Ukraine, he knew what the Western response was going to be. First, he knew that sanctions would be imposed against him, harsh financial sanctions and trade sanctions, and that he would probably get Russia booted out of the SWIFT system, and that he would probably see Russia's foreign reserves, dollar-denominated foreign reserves, seized. So their U.S. treasuries, any dollar-denominated holdings effectively became worthless. But Russia was prepared for that. They divested of these long ago, following the Crimea incursion back in 2014. They've gotten rid of a lot of their U.S. dollar-denominated assets, and they've been buying gold. Now, what they knew was that other nations would see what just happened to Russia. And those nations would think, well, if they did that to Russia, what if they did that to us? We should buy gold. So we have seen central banks all across the world accumulating gold. And that may have something to do with why we're seeing this physical delivery rise as countries around the world start to bring gold into their central banks. Gold, unlike a piece of paper, a contract, there's no counterparty risk. You don't have to worry about, will the person on the other side of this deal live up to their promise? So I have a paper contract with the U.S. government. Will they deliver on that promise? Well, if you've got physical gold in your hand, you don't have to worry about another party living up to their end of the agreement. Effectively, God is your counterparty because God is the one who created gold and silver. They're basic elements. They can't be simply printed into existence. They have to be extracted at high cost through blood, sweat, and tears. There's energy involved, so they are units of account that people can trade, and they have a stated value, a specific value that just can't be printed away or added to. You can't just conjure up more gold as a central bank, just like you can't conjure up more oil, which is the problem we've been seeing in the European Union. So that's the first step of this war in Ukraine and what Russia managed to do. They exposed the system that made other banks, other countries think we need to get away from this dollar-denominated system. Next, he said, if you want our oil, if you want our natural gas, you need to pay in rubles or cryptocurrency or gold or even in your own currency. But notice it was anything but euros and dollars because he wants to get away from that euro-dollar system. There were also rumors, and I can't confirm, and there's no way there would be news stories on this because of the diplomatic implications of it, but there were rumors that India was buying discounted Russian oil in exchange for physical gold. Now, if that were to take place, what would happen is India would go to an exchange like COMEX, buy these paper contracts, get delivery, turn around, exchange that physical gold for oil, and then pocket the difference in the price, so they would get discounted oil. But that would be sucking gold out of the inventory of the Western financial system. So eventually, this is going to break. Now we have the next phase, and I believe it is the terminal phase of this attack on the Western financial system. And it starts in ground zero, which is Europe. So Europe is short energy right now. So they're experiencing massive inflation. Now, again, when we see rising prices, is it really rising prices or is it falling currency? In this case, it's both, because we also have shortfalls of energy, and energy is the master resource that lies beneath the entire economy. So as people start to see this massive inflation taking place and they see the value of their currency going down, what do? What is the the most logical thing that you would do to make sure you can feed yourself and your children 6 months from now? Well, let's sum it up in one picture. This is from Reddit. It says, "Queue at my precious metals dealer in Vienna, Austria." Never seen something like that. And of course, these people's faces are blacked out for their own privacy. But there's a line outside this precious metals dealer in Vienna. Maybe that's just coincidence. Then we read this article, which says, "London gold dealer runs out of bullion as trust budget shocks." Now, bullion is a fancy term for gold and silver bars, coins, ingots, anything that's been measured out. So basically we're talking about 1 ounce, 10 ounce, 100 ounce bars and coins of gold and silver. And I would say it has very little to do with the trust budget and more to do with the shortfall in energy and all the currency printing that the government has to do to make up for that, to subsidize households, to subsidize businesses. So they're going to be printing and the value of the currency is going to fall. And so people see that and they go, how can I protect my wealth? How can I protect my purchasing power? I can do that by exchanging these pieces of government paper for real gold and real silver that I hold in my hand. And then 6 months from now, if I need food, I can go and I can pawn that, I can sell that to somebody, and I can buy food at a more affordable rate. So let's see what this says. This says, when the pound slumped, as Kwasi Kwarteng presented his mini budget, some Britons rushed to the safety of a haven that's recently lost its luster, gold. As the UK currency slid to an all-time low early Monday, bullion priced in pounds climbed to close to a record. That would typically encourage selling and deter buyers. But this time around, the turmoil in British bond and currency markets increased the allure of the precious metal. Buying has increased exponentially, said Ash Kundra, who runs coin dealer J. Blundell and Sons in London's historic Hatton Garden jewelry quarter. I keep running out of coins. I keep running out of bars. The rush for gold in the UK contrasts with the bearish sentiment that's seen dollar prices for the precious metal slump by more than 20% from a March peak as the Federal Reserve's aggressive monetary tightening makes the non-interest-bearing asset less attractive. Still, bullion's status as a hedge against inflation and currency debasement is keeping demand from retail investors strong. At Bullion Vault, a UK-based brokerage, British users opened accounts to buy bullion at more than double the usual rate this week. We're seeing a lot of new UK interest, said Adrian Ash, head of research at the firm. The interest rate and inflation crisis is global. But gold is saying that the UK has put itself right in the eye of the storm. And this goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about with the energy crisis. This is a global crisis. However, the UK, Europe, this is ground zero. This is where it's coming from because that's where the energy shortfall is most stark. So while we have a global energy market, the problems are at the greatest in Europe right now. And so you're seeing that's creating a currency crisis where they're having to print in order to fix these problems, supposedly fix these problems. And in the process, they're driving people to go out and really exchange the falling purchasing, those pieces of paper that are falling in purchasing power. We're going to go out and we're going to exchange those for real things that won't lose their purchasing power. And I want to look at this. This is from Wikipedia. It's called Greshams Law. It says, in economics, Greshams Law is a monetary principle stating that bad money drives out good. For example, if there are two forms of commodity money in circulation, which are accepted by law as having similar face value, the more valuable commodity will gradually disappear from circulation. So in the United States, we had an example of this in the 1960s. prior to 1965, quarters and dimes contained 90% silver. After 1965 and thereafter, they were composed of a mix of different metals, copper, nickel, whatever, but no silver. But they both had the same face value, so over time, people took the pre-1965 quarters and dimes and they put them over here. They said, I'll gladly exchange this other one, this newer quarter, this newer dime for the older one, and I'll put it over here because it's got real silver in it. And that's smart because a quarter has a face value of 25 cents. But if you have a pre-1965 quarter, it's worth a lot more than 25 cents. It's probably, I don't know, $7, something like that now. Same with a dime. You're probably looking at, I don't know, $2 or $3 for a dime that's pre-1965 versus 10 cents is the stated face value. So that drives that out as people are smart. They recognize what has real value and they put it aside. They take it out of circulation and they're like, I'm not going to spend that. In a sense, we see the same thing happening here because these paper gold and silver markets set the price for gold and silver in the Western financial system. They've artificially suppressed the price of gold and silver. When you have 100 contracts claiming the same piece of gold or same piece of silver, then it pushes that price down what it would be if there was simply a 1-to-1 ratio, which is the way it should be. And so people are recognizing that and they're realizing maybe I ought to trade this currency that has the same face value for gold or silver while I can, and eventually they're going to pull out all of that gold and silver out of inventory, and the system, this paper system, is going to break. And I believe it's going to bring the Western financial system with it. Now, does that mean the end of the world? No. What it means is massive inflation on a much higher scale than we see now, perhaps hyperinflation. And it means that more and more people are going to, more and more countries are going to say, we don't want dollars, we don't want euros, we don't want pounds, we don't want yen, we want something that retains its value. And what have we seen Russia doing? We've seen them getting together with China and India, Brazil, countries like Saudi Arabia and Nigeria to come up with a new currency backed by real things like gold, like silver, like oil, natural gas, wheat, whatever, commodities that have real value. If they do that, they would create a new financial system, bifurcate the world into the West and the BRICS nations and whoever wants to align with them. And they would have a much more stable currency, and the Western financial system, as we've known it, would cease to exist. So if that happens, then we're on the verge of seeing, perhaps, if this is Putin's objective from day one, we're on the verge of seeing him perhaps achieve that objective, because I think as we go into the winter of this year, we're going to see more and more people go out and look for gold and silver. Now, there's another issue that compounds all of this. So I think it's somewhere between a quarter and a third of the world's refiners of gold and silver are located in Europe. And it's very energy intensive, that refining process. And so you're seeing those refiners shut down, which means that the supply of gold and silver bullion that's available on the market is going to experience a shortfall as we head into this winter. So that's only going to lead to a smaller supply of gold and silver at a time when demand is increasing exponentially, as that London gold dealer said. An exponential increase in demand right as we're seeing less and less available for sale. So this is going to expose the Western fiat currency system really for the fraud that it is. and it's going to lead to the introduction of a new currency system. Now, what does all that mean for Bible prophecy? Well, I think in the West, that new currency system is going to be central bank digital currency, because they're going to use this as an opportunity to maintain greater control over the population. And we know from the Bible, from the book of Revelation, that something very similar to central bank digital currency creates the platform for the mark of the beast system, where the Antichrist can control everyone who buys and sells. So all of this is setting the stage for the rise of the Antichrist. Again, we'll see if all of this plays out the way that I think it will, but from day one, I didn't think that this was about conquering territory. I thought this was a war. It's a power struggle between East and West. It's Russia taking on the United States and the dollar-denominated global financial system, global system of trade, and trying to break free of it and create their own system. And I think they're on the verge of doing that. So again, we'll see. What do you think? Leave your comments below. Like and share this. God willing, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to sign up for my free monthly newsletter and get your copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. Just follow the link in the description to get your free book. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.